Hey, it's Dr. Amanda with StraightSmile Solutions, StraightSmileSolutions.com. We're here today to talk about expanders, different types of expanders, which one's best for your patient. If you want to refer to this blog that I'm going to be talking about today, you can go to my website, StraightSmileSolutions.com. You can click on About Us and go to blogs. You can put in RPE or Schwartz and it should pop right up if you want to follow it. It's from about 8 months ago, but sometimes people like to listen and not read, so I thought I'd just talk. And this is probably a question I get at least once a week from some doctor, or even from patients who like to contact us and, on our Facebook groups and stuff like that. And I just kind of tell them what's the difference between an RPE and a Schwartz. Or a fixed or banded expander and a Schwartz. So my personal philosophy, of course, if you've heard me speak, is that it's important that we develop the arches when a patient is young to the size they should have been. Our culture right now is a soft processed diet. First world countries tend to have soft processed diets. We are not chewing and eating the way we were designed to, as if we were, in a tribal culture or a more primitive culture. We're not, ripping meat off the bones. We don't have a lot of sand and dirt in our diet. So crowding is a prevalent problem. And it's just going to keep getting worse, as we evolve. So what we can do to combat that is to develop the arches in young kids. That could be myofunctional exercises. It can be diet. It can be breastfeeding. It can be lack of habits. There's a lot of things we can do to encourage the jaws to grow properly. But you know what? Not everyone's perfect. And hey, even my own kids, I tried, but one of them needed some expansion, and it happens. So if you tackle it early, sometimes the teeth can just come up real nicely. If you create the space, they will come sometimes, and you can decrease the likelihood of needing extractions or having impactions and other kinds, and having such difficult orthodontics later if you create the space at an earlier age. Anyways, let's talk about that. So let's say we know we're going to need expanders. We know we're treatment planning them, but we're deciding between fixed and removable. And that is a conversation that sometimes doctors just have a flat philosophy, like I only do X. And that's your choice, I like to have that conversation with the parents and the patients, because I feel like if they've contributed to the conversation, then they're less likely to complain with what I chose, And if they choose to switch, then we can talk about an additional fee, because they were notified of the risks, benefits, and alternatives. They know about the experience, they know what to expect, and they know that they'll be billed an additional fee if they want to switch to a different type of expander. That's how I like to approach it. Of course, there's going to be patients that I'm going to lean one way or another just based on, how they are. But again, I only do expanders in growing kids or in kids that are basically pubertal, maybe light post-pubertal. In a girl, of course, I'm going to ask about their growth. Where are they in the growth curve? Where are they in puberty? If you're not sure, if you're too embarrassed to ask, you really shouldn't be doing orthodontics if you're too embarrassed to ask these questions. You can always take a hand wrist x-ray, and I have a really great tutorial on how to read a hand wrist x-ray to learn about growth if you're too chicken to have the conversation. But I think that's kind of lame. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the risks, benefits, and alternatives of one versus the other. So my go-to is always removable, because removable is healthier. You can take it out to eat and brush. You can have a better lifestyle. There's no food requirements because you take it out, put it in the case. I really have very little problems. It's all about partnering with the right patients and parents, though. That's my go-to. That would be my first choice. It's also way easier to turn because they can take it out, put it in their hand, do the turn, put it back in. Turning in the mouth is really difficult because it's dark, it's wet, it's small, and a lot of times parents don't have great eyeballs. So it's hard for them to see that teeny tiny little hole, and let alone turn it the right direction, not the wrong direction, and it gets food in it. It's really, really hard. But we can always teach people to do these things. So again, removables can be done uppers and lowers. I usually go a little slower on removable than I would necessarily on a fixed. I mean, I'm not going to do it about the same, but you definitely can't go super fast on a removable because it's tissue borne, and tooth borne, but it's not just only tooth borne. So you have to dial it down. I tend to take my expansion slow just because there's less risks. We can take it easy. There's less discomfort. You don't get a big, gigantic gap between your front two teeth if you take it slow, that patients hate. And I've seen scary things happen with expanders, both when the parents went out of control with the turns and they didn't listen to the turns, or they lost an appointment and they got confused and they overturned. And I'm not saying these were in my patients, but I've seen things. I've also seen teeth push through the buccal plate on patients whose palate didn't turn, and they were too old for this and they devitalized. So I've seen and I've heard of other more scary things happening, and we won't even go there. So that's why I like to take it slow, have them come in the office, supervise it. I usually do 2 turns a week on a growing patient and 1 turn a week on a non-growing patient. That's just my personal philosophy, but you can come up with your own philosophy. So what else? So we're talking about that right there. Schwartz is great from a patient experience. Hygiene's better, discomfort is better. They can eat whatever they want. They can pick colors and design it. They can bling it out. It's fun. Of course, they can lose them and they can break them. So you have to let them know what the fee is going to be if they lose or break them. If they lose or break them, it can be tricky because teeth are very dynamic when you're in expansion. So if they lose them or break them and you have to make a new one, I usually recommend getting them a temporary retainer, like an Essex, and holding them in that while you make the new one, because it's not going to fit when you go to deliver it later, because they're just going to, it's going to be changing so rapidly. That's the best thing. Make sure you build in a compliance contract or an agreement into the price if they lose them, or if they choose to upgrade or change to a fixed, what the cost is going to be. Let them know on the front end that they've made their decision. They've chosen removable. This is what's the cost going to be if they break them. This is what the cost is going to be if they lose them. This is what the cost is going to be if they choose to change to fixed. Remember, when you're building a cost, it should not just be lab fee only. It's also your time, reimpressing, delivering, making that temporary retainer. I mean, I would say at least $500 for upper and lower to change or upgrade or remake. That's what I would do. I mean, you want them to really think about it. Most parents on the front end will initially say, oh, I want fixed, because they don't want it. But they don't realize it's going to be a lot more trouble, especially if you've got some bling on the retainers. Like if you're putting in like, you can put all kinds of bling in expanders, like thumb cribs, tongue cribs, what else? Bite plates, things to open the bite, things to close the bite. A lot of cool things you can put in. And the more you bling out, the more auxiliaries that you add to a fixed retainer, the thicker and more difficult it is to eat with it. A regular streamlined mini palax is not bad, but when you start adding other stuff, it can be bad. But when you have an upper and a lower, it can be trouble. Now remember that the palate is built in 2 palatal shelves with sutures, right? And those sutures interdigitate as the child gets more mature. So in a grown child or an adult, you probably, it's a bit of a gray area. You probably cannot expand. It's more of a surgery. That's not something I get into, nor am I interested in getting into it. I think the risks are too high. But I know it's out there, and I know some people do it. I just prefer to do things on kids and do them right and safe. But in any case, the lower, no, it's not 2 shelves. So you're just tipping with the lower. But if we're developing arches, it's great to go ahead and develop the lower arch at the same time as the upper arch if you have severe crowding or a history of impactions. I like to do both. And then, of course, you're probably going to need to follow up with some braces or aligners as well. So what else? Yeah, we can jump cross bites, anterior cross bites. We can put screws and pistons in them. We can open bites, close bites. We can do so much cool stuff. We can eliminate habits with them. We can really make them a cool appliance. So that's basically in a nutshell what a Schwartz is and how you can customize them, not only make them cool looking, but do a lot of cool things with bites with them. But yeah, fixed is more difficult. It's more difficult to turn. There's an odor. It's more difficult to eat. It's very difficult to eat sometimes. Soft foods, a lot more discomfort. A lot of times, like I said, parents will ask for fixed, and then the parent and the patient end up hating it. And like, get this out of my mouth. So just be prepared. If they're determined to have fixed, then you let them know it's going to be challenging. You're going to have to eat a lot of soft foods the first few months. Yeah, your child may lose some weight. And if it's a child that's having difficulty with eating already or has other conditions that, are nutritional conditions, maybe not the best thing for them. I definitely wouldn't recommend that in that case. You want a child where it's going to be okay, to be on a softer diet for a little while as needed. So yeah, that's Schwartz versus fixed expanders. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Again, if you want to access this blog, you can go to StraightSmile Solutions, go to the About Us, go to blog, and put in RPE or Schwartz, and it should pop right up. All right, thanks so much.